Hello. What is post-pandemic life going to be like? Have you wondered? That is the topic of today's show. Stay right there. We're going to answer all of those hot topics and more.
Welcome to Coffee with the Queens, empowering you to grow and protect your cash credit castle and kingdom. Have you ever heard the phrase, get your ducks in a row, and you feel like you haven't done that? We share learned lessons and practical advice to help guide you to a life of financial freedom. Empowerment is key, so grab your coffee and crown and let's get to it. Take it away, Queen Tammy.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. There we go. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
We're ready.
What you drinking? Got your crowns? Got your tiaras? Let's get right into it.
I finished my coffee. You know, y'all out there in California are earlier than me. I finished coffee hours ago. I'm on tea now.
Me too. I'm in my water now.
I'm drinking tea.
Peppermint mocha coffee.
Mine is California.
You win for yummy.
Yeah, mine is Chiagra mushroom tea.
Whoa.
Okay.
Nice.
That's a whole other show right there.
All right, ladies, we came off an important, incredible day yesterday, and I just wanted to know what everyone's feeling. How do you feel? You know, we have a new change in leadership. Are we feeling good about 2021? Do we know, are we feeling apprehensive? Do we know what's going to come? I know from my being in mortgages, I see kind of signs on the wall. Everyone's asking questions about, will the interest rates rise? Will we have inflation? Is this a good time to buy more real estate or refinance? Questions like that come up all the time. So I wanted to throw it to you. How are you, each of you, feeling about where we are, and also what is post-pandemic life going to look like? You know, COVID's changed us so much. Is this going to be our post-COVID life year? We don't
even know. We're not even post yet. We're still midst, right?
We are now.
So it's kind of speculation. I think, you have two choices, actually more choices, but basically when it comes to how you're looking at this year, you've got two choices. You can look at it with fear and apprehension, or you can look at it with excitement and a positive outlook. I tend to think, for me, it's healthier for a positive outlook. Otherwise, it's kind of like that rabbit hole of things that can go wrong that our minds may start going down. And so for me, I'm excited about it. I mean, I love the pomp and circumstance of the inauguration. I just think it's the closest thing to a royal celebration that we have. Right? So I enjoyed watching that yesterday, and certainly there is a sense of hope with every new president, with every new change of our leadership. So I'm going to stick with that. But I have to say, when it comes to the post-pandemic, I watched a documentary not long ago, and I believe it was a BBC documentary, and it was on the pandemic from Spanish flu, which was way back in the turn of the 19th century, the 20th century. And it was alarming in a way, because they showed how not only did it resurge so many times more than we would remember, more than we ever learned about in history class, but it had 4 surgeons, and we're on our second or third, and the virus is mutating and all this kind of stuff. And you're looking at it thinking, how long is this really going to last? But we have a vaccine. They do not. But what was interesting is that it eventually led, from the way they took it, from the emotional aspect and how the emotions of the country affected the way people were spending. They tied it into the Depression. They tied it all the way up to the Great Depression. So that was kind of eye-opening for me, to look at that and think, well, how is this going to affect, how are our emotions from this pandemic going to be affecting how we run our business, how we buy our things, how we communicate, all of these choices that we have coming up. How are we going to be? Is it going to be like history repeating itself? Are we going to end up in some sort of a recession or depression? And we don't know. That said, I'm going to remain positive. That sounded
interesting. A lot of interesting questions.
Yeah. Well, I am so positive. I was watching yesterday's inauguration. I cried. I really did. We just needed the change. We really did. And it was just a breath, a sense of breath, breath air. I mean, just breathing and like a relief, like, oh my God, all that weight just taking off of you and being able to relax and say, oh my God, this is going to be great. It's going to be great. So I am so optimistic. I really am. Of course, I'm going in there cautiously because 4 years, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to change all that in 4 years, right? But again, I'm cautiously optimistic, but very optimistic, and justice will prevail. And last night's show, oh my God, it was so good. The fireworks, I cried again. So good. And thinking about, this morning I woke up and I told Angel, I said, Angel, I have the best campaign what Mrs. Biden could do. Because, they usually do something about, Melania did something about bullying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this campaign, she should make a campaign about stop the hatred and go after like the woman that did the poem.
Mm-hmm.
She should talk to her because she's a big influencer. She should go after these big influencers that have a name out there and make a campaign, stop the hatred. I think that'd be so great. And then, you know what Angel said? Angel said, well, talk to Sandra. She's a big influencer. She can start with you.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they've been alluding to the fact that she's going to continue her association with the veterans, that she's going to be very focused on veterans moving forward. That said, I mean, who knows, there may be another secondary agenda, but that seems to be her focus.
Right.
Right. Great. And I think there's always a way to spread the message of peace and love and
right. But if you use influencers like, that poet lady and
wonderful.
22 years old. That's amazing. Amazing. So that's what I want to talk to Congress about. Let's do it.
Right. So I watched
Sandra.
Right. So I also watched the inauguration yesterday. And to me, the most crying part, the female part of it, was when they were at Arlington Cemetery. Yes. And again, the recognition of all those flags. And this is America. I mean, we are so lucky to be part of America. But on the other hand, I'm also a little bit comprehensive, and I'm apprehensive because of the dollar. I'm apprehensive because, not personally, not emotionally. Back to your, Sandra, I'm apprehensive about the financial impact of COVID. The fact of the matter is, we still have a lot of people who don't have jobs. And the thing that I'm trying to figure out, which I'm so glad we have our speaker today, this whole thing about what is the digital dollar. If we've got a lot of our wealth sitting in 401ks, what is a Bitcoin?
Right.
Somebody said to me, oh, go buy I can now have, actually, in my bank account, I can actually not only have a checking account, a savings account, a certificate of deposit, I can actually have a Bitcoin account. But what does that mean? Yeah. I don't know that answer. So I am hoping to get some guidance and hopefully some insight from our speaker today about what is Bitcoin. What does it mean if you don't have dollars, if you don't have money? And for a lot of our population, this is like learning a whole new thing, we have to re-educate ourselves about what is money. Where do you invest? That, to me, is the apprehensive part of the future.
Yeah.
So,
especially today. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm so excited we have Shaun here today.
Yes. And actually, that is something we can ask Shaun about the Bitcoin, because it is confusing for a lot of people. I don't really understand it. And I have that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. At the same time, I feel like I can't move forward because I don't really know what I'm doing. Anybody else?
And Shaun always has the inside scoop of all this, and it's so great. And I asked Wells Fargo. I went into Wells Fargo and I said, "Hey, do you guys have Bitcoin accounts yet?" And they said, "What?"
I know.
It's like,
wow.
I guess not.
I love that Shaun has actually put in our chat over here in the comment section of StreamYard. He has the full description of digital currency, which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation of units of currency and verify the transfer of funds operating independently with central banks. Bitcoin has become a hot commodity among speculators. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us that in person.
Oh man, that's
Shaun
funny.
Cassidy is the creator of Cassidy Creative Solutions, which is a strategic business development consultant agency that has assisted over 5,000 professionals, nonprofit organizations, and corporations to leverage social media, internet sales, and marketing strategies. He is a recurring guest for us, and can I just say that, like, from our layperson point of view, what he does is just foretell the future. He's so good at reading trends and understanding what is happening now in our business world. So let's bring him on. Shaun, welcome.
Welcome,
Hello.
Shaun.
Hey, Shaun, welcome back. So happy to have you back.
It's wonderful to be here with you. Enjoy all this time.
Yay. So do you think social media is going to change greatly what we're doing as far as promoting our businesses? Since the last time that we had you on, we were using Zoom, and now we're in a new platform, and we were talking a little bit about the online marketing and social media and everything before we went live here. What is your opinion on that, on social media affecting business moving forward?
Well, I've been stating for quite some time now the merger between social media and digital currency. So that means the ability to buy and sell anything online through your social channels. And I've been talking about that for some time, long before the pandemic. And everybody said that was very futuristic, but nobody's talking about that in a futuristic way now, because what we're seeing is Instagram going into e-commerce. We're seeing all these other areas shifting into the ability to just get on your social media and start buying products and services out of it. So the reverse is going to happen. What I mean by that, the reverse in the business development side is you'll see increasingly people have their own e-commerce sites through their social media channels. And that's the way they'll be making a living, literally making a business through that.
Yeah.
So do they? So what happens to platforms like Shopify or Amazon? Are they partners, or are these just, I know Facebook has their own shopping cart. Where do you see that going?
Well, Amazon's an animal. I mean, there's only one bigger animal in the world for that type of thing. It's called Alibaba.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to open up all kinds of digital currency spaces and digital abilities through Amazon to be reseller to your social media space. So what they'll do is, in effect, become a hybrid area. So you go into Amazon, and you could go into your social media channels, and they'll have a collaboration to, I'm an Amazon a preferred account. I'm an Amazon person that I work for Amazon, but I have my own store through Amazon, right? So then Amazon will go, well, we'll integrate you into your social channels, and we'll have a complete agreement with all those social channels to do it.
Interesting.
Okay. Kind of understand. I think all of us are going, okay,
talking about social media. Talking about social media, Shaun, we have a lot of things going on as far as, the whole parlor thing that happened. And I mean, where do you feel that's going to end? Is that going to expand, or are we going to see more social channels pop up because of some of the things that are going on with some of our social channels? And what's your feeling there?
It's very interesting in the terms right now that we're looking at it, speech online. So it's a very gray area in a way for a person in my area, because it in one area it makes total sense to me. I don't want hate speech to be on there. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be untruth to be seen through the social channels. But at the same point, I'm really not in favor of censorship on the use of social channels, right? So I mean, I think there's a fine line there that the social channels are playing between those two areas. And I've been saying that long before the geopolitical situation happened, as I was going up through the rank of learning the social and e-commerce spaces, was that, our political speech was getting so divided, so incredibly divided in our country. But of course, it wasn't just us. I mean, that was happening in the UK, that was happening in other parts of the world, where this social channels were really dividing people. in effect, like by political thoughts or by political ambitions, and it was creating, you know, a toxic environment on the social spaces. So in order for them to not go to this digital world, what I'm describing, which is really about commerce and all that areas, they have to learn to control that area, you know. And so I think there'll be increasing government restrictions on speech coming into this world that we have, and I don't think you'll be restricted in a commerce or business speech, but I think the speech that you have that says, okay, well, this is a complete lie, they're going to take it, you know, they're going to just take that down immediately, and that is going to be a really interesting scenario about really, we're talking about how free press works in the social space, how the press world works in the social space, and how we deal with truth versus lie.
Moving forward, since we have, you know, you mentioned the dichotomy that comes up through these different avenues of social media. With that, of course, is a lot of emotions, and our emotions have been, you know, like pinballs in the last 4 years, just kind of like getting knocked everywhere, which way. And moving forward, do you think that business is going to show a reflection of that? Will we see more heart-centered business moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was going that way even before the pandemic, because a lot of people that I would work with when I would work with young entrepreneurs, for example, you know, they're coming in their 20s and 30s and they're starting new corporations or companies. They always really wanted to focus on giving to something along with making money, like have a charity hook to it, have a cause hook to it, and they were very much into cause marketing, and there was a whole area into cause marketing. I think we're going really heavily into cause marketing. I mean, the invention or development of the ability to, you know, give somebody $1 on your Facebook, you know, for a cause, or give them, you know, all these different applications and different ways that you could do support. You could say, oh, well, that person has passed away and now they can't pay for their funeral costs. We can now literally, you know, bring people together that pay for their funeral costs. I mean, it is an amazing development.
You know, yeah.
So, yeah.
My granddaughter just came back from Taiwan, and she now takes cello lessons and piano lessons online through Facebook with her teachers in Taiwan. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch. So,
and also, you know,
you.
Patreon. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Patreon, you can pay people just for their content and their, you know, information and education. So Patreon, you know, has sprung up as almost a partner of YouTube. So you can go on YouTube, watch several YouTube channels, and as they're educating, people are gifting them, you know, little gifts through Patreon, which is pretty neat too. That's something new.
You know, the other interesting thing that I find about this is how this digital world has complicated estate planning. Oh my God. Estate planning used to be simple. Even I don't know. Like I just read in the Mercury News the other day, how can this be? How can this why would anybody want to buy Bitcoin? So this guy, I'm sure you saw it too. He can't find his digital wallet. He has $220 million worth of Bitcoin there, but he can't get access to it. I mean, and under current laws, if you don't know that digital wallet, you can't do anything. How do you see this happening? How do we actually be able to manage and track all this stuff that sits virtual? There's no paper trail. There's no nothing. I mean, I just see this being totally disrupting how we make a plan.
Well, while in the pandemic, people weren't watching because they were really concerned about their daily lives and what's going on with the pandemic. But during the pandemic, you saw SpaceX and many other people doing constellation areas, and they were putting up mass amounts of constellations of satellites. And no one was really asking why. You know, like, why are we putting up all these satellites? I think in the last year or two, year and a half, we put up really more than 1,000 communication satellites over the U.S. Space area. SpaceX has been involved, but many have been involved in that. And so, you know, they've been planning about how they're going to do the interconnectivity of the World Wide Web and the new area of the World Wide Web, and then the web of how we deal with the commerce side of it. So they're trying to stabilize that because they've really been planning for it. They've been planning for how the commerce side will shift and the digital side of that and our digital lives will shift. That's the only reason to put up all the satellites. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to put up all the satellites if you're not having a plan to do it. And then even around Africa, Facebook put a ring around Africa. You know, it asked you, like, they put a communication ring underneath the ocean around the country of Africa. So, I'm not making it up. It's all there. So it's when I say things like that, it's crazy because they are planning, to look at different parts of the world about how they open up the economies of the world.
It sounds like a sci-fi movie, and this is actually what we're living in.
Yeah, it is what we're
crazy. Yeah.
The pandemic itself was sci-fi. I mean, we're living in like a weird reality. Like we're living in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and when we say SpaceX, is that the contention between China and US in terms of who actually owns the channels there? Is that one of the things that we see in the press all the time?
Well, it's been obvious that we're seeing the shift that China's becoming way more influential. We've been seeing it coming for quite some time, right? There is part of the rub-in with that in that way is that China. If China could control the digital economy, it would control the world economy, but it doesn't really have the innovation space to do that. What it does is have the knowledge space. It doesn't have the innovation space. The U.S. controls the innovation space. So there's where there's this brother-sister partnership between China and the U.S. They could say that we're like rivals, but it's kind of ridiculous in some way. Some of the things that call people rivals in the business sense, they're not really rivals in business. They might be rivals in some social beliefs or something like that, but they're not always rivals in business.
One of the topics were, how are things going to change in 2021 in business? And I mean, do you think that there was such a influx, from suburbia or from cities to suburbia? And I mean, do we feel like it's going to stay that way? Are we all going to be remote workers now? Production actually went up for companies as they adopted more remote work strategies. Do you think that's going to continue on that way? And also, how are we going to deal with the emotional aspects of people? I mean, we talk to entrepreneurs all the time, and we know it's tough to be on your own all the time without that interaction and networking and day-to-day experience with others, social. So how do you think we're going to balance that going forward?
The second part concerns me more than the first. The second part about the emotional health, that concerns me a lot more than the other side. Very interesting during the pandemic right now that we have not had a stock market crash. We've actually had a stock market go up. We've also seen real estate skyrocket in value at the same time that we're in what we would call a potential depression, where about 20 or 30% of the U.S. is unemployed, even though the numbers say a lot less than that. But I know from my own small business sectors of knowing people that a lot of they don't have their employees, but part-time, maybe even able to pay them full-time. So, those numbers don't make sense to me in the unemployment numbers. So they don't actually make sense to me in the real world. Definitely on the people I talk to. So what I'm saying on that, it's very interesting that the stock market is really so strong, and the real estate area, because when we had a decline before, we've had other declines. We had a bubble in the real estate sector that affected and brought down, in effect, the Stearns areas and all this area. Remember where we had a huge crash. It brought down the economy in that way. So it seems like that's stable, and that's almost increasing. In that way. So people that own real estate now are seeing huge values in their real estates go up. When people want to buy real estate, they're also seeing very low interest rates, but real estate going up. So this is a contradiction in that, like you're buying it for a lot more than you would have bought it, but a lower interest rate. So very interesting. I mean, the digitalization of the real estate sector will continue, meaning the selling of how to sell things digitally. I mean, a lot of the things that were part of our life that become convenience are going to become permanent.
Like what? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, on a daily basis, I might be using Instacart or other kinds of applications to have things delivered to me, my Amazon or those areas. Amazon, of course, is investing a huge amount of money in drones. And has now has approval to do it too. I mean, there's government approval now to drone delivery.
Wow.
That just happened recently. So, I mean, that means the space is in the air.
They've also bought planes too. Amazon bought planes.
Yeah, tons of them. Yeah, tons of them. So, I mean, we use a word, throughout time, it was interesting how you went back to the time of 1918, that time, because I'll discuss that a little bit too. Yeah. Throughout time, we had magnets that were business magnets in our society. We had the oil magnets, we had the railroad magnets, we had that. And so right now we're in the middle of a tech magnets, and those tech magnets really, are defining the way our society is moving forward. They're the trillionaires, we're the millionaires, then the billionaires, and now the trillionaires. So if you follow what the trillionaires are doing and their boards of directors, well, you'll see where the country is headed, because they're really, they got the voice, the money to say we should move this way. So when people say that's a trend, I said, well, it's obviously a trend because the money's behind it. I mean, if you put the money on it, it's definitely going to be more likely to happen than not happen, right?
So is that the secret to you? Is that the secret to you reading the future? You just look at what the big guys are doing? I say that because I say just, but it's really not that easy.
Well, when I worked for a market research company, and you did have the ability to see some trends happening because you were speaking every day to the people who were speaking to you. So sort of what you're suggesting, the people who are making, they were the influencers at that point. And you can pick up trends if you talk to enough. If you interview 10 people and 9 people say this, you sort of think that 9 people could be right. So that's sort of what market research was all about back in those days.
Shaun,
so I have a question, Shaun. I heard you say something that I'd like to understand exactly what you mean by that. You said you have an Amazon store, and you said that you saw social media being the shopping e-commerce. Can you explain to us what your store is, what it does? If somebody was listening to our show, how could they do something like you're doing? And what does this really mean? I mean, what really is a store? Your product, somebody else's products? How does the social media part tie into that?
Well, right now you can be a partner with Amazon, and in Amazon, like many of the things you're buying in Amazon, like you look at clothes and you look at those things, they're not always an Amazon product. They're a partner of a product done through a partner agreement, and then they are servicing that through Amazon. They're pre-approved to be part of Amazon, but their products and services might be coming from another part of the world or be coming from another state. And they are themselves like a retailer, an online retailer. So they have the inventory, then they ship it, but they have to do it based on the terms that Amazon provides. And they have to go through Amazon's vehicle to do that. Therefore, they are Amazon, but they're a partner of Amazon, right? So anybody can really, if they do the procedure, become a partner of Amazon, right? And they can use it through their area. I mean, the difference is they use the Amazon brand, the Amazon logistics, but you could do that yourself because that's called an e-commerce site where you do your own drop shipping and you have a product and you sell things and ship it out. But with Amazon, they're doing all the marketing for you and they're doing all the area for you. So that's going to really, really increase a lot. So what am I saying on that? What I'm saying is that what has not quite occurred with Amazon in that area is the formal agreements with Facebook, Instagram, and all it's going to take is the formal agreements, right? So the formal agreements would be just same formal agreements. You have to be a partner, and they say, okay, Amazon's going to go to the board at Facebook, and they're going to go, we will do a specific alignment with you that allows our partners to buy products through Facebook and to also market it through Facebook. But we need seamless access. So you're going to have to provide us seamless access on your end to do that. And then probably what they'll do is they'll create a division of Facebook to do that, right? So they'll create a division of Facebook to make that alignment with Amazon and others, and that will become a division of Facebook.
Interesting.
So,
So when
now,
you
I don't know the
Amazon...
inside on Facebook. I'm predicting that. I don't know the inside on that. So because Facebook would go, holy shit, how does he know that? Sorry about that. but yeah, so anyway.
So when you say you have an Amazon store, do you actually find products that you just think people will buy? Or are you, what is your Amazon store, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, when I deal in the world of artwork,
Okay.
so I'm actually one of the other things I am as an artist, and people don't know
Oh,
that.
wow. I
So
didn't.
I sell other people's artwork.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
that's how I do. Yeah, that's one of the
Cool.
things I do. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You know what I love about Amazon is you can actually choose a nonprofit to help support. And so you could go onto smile.amazon.com and choose a nonprofit. And I really like that because anything that you purchase, a portion of that, I think it's like 0.5%, but still it adds up. It goes to the nonprofit. So it's really, and it's no money out of your pocket. It's out of their pocket.
And so, and when we again think about digital wallets and digital currency, do you think the dollar is going to go away? Do you think we're going to a digital currency world? And in the world of like I have a bank account, or I'm walking around with money today. What if I'm somebody who's had no experience in this world? Like maybe I'm over 50. Okay, what does this really mean? What does this really mean?
Throughout the U.S., there are mints, right? There are areas where are mints. St. Louis has a mint. Areas. There are actually areas where they actually create physical money, right? So they create
Right,
the coins, they create the dollars, and that. So I would see that what we have to do is see what happens with those employees right away, right? When those areas start to go shifting, they're going to be bringing in computer systems and networks, and it wouldn't be surprised to me that there'd be a hook into those satellite systems right directly into those areas, where they're saying, okay, where this is going to be the hub of digital currency in the US. But in order to do that, it's going to have to be controlled in a controlled environment. So it has to be a protected, controlled environment.
Well, I think one of the things that confuses me is that there's not just one Bitcoin. There is tons of Bitcoins. And I think that's really confusing for a lay person to figure out, what does this really mean? Why is one better than the other? What should I be buying? So I think that's the other really confusing part of this thing called Bitcoins.
Yeah, well, and Bitcoin's really a brand name, right? Because there's many different kind of digital currency aspects out there.
Right.
But they're kind of the early one, right? The early one, so they got well known based on the brand name of what that was. But right now, I'm kind of studying what China's doing, because China's doing the early rollout. And when China, they said they gave it to 50,000 of their residents for digital currency, and then now they're bringing in the ATMs to do it. So now they're basically putting digital ATMs throughout the country, that people will be able to use an ATM to load a card with digital money and then go use that wherever they wish, like at a mall or at a retail store or location. Now that really seems to be the one that, when you look at it, that kind of there's some sense to that, right? You're going to go to a physical, kiosk, right? And then you put in your what would be your digital credit card, and then it would load your digital credit card. So you'd be buying currency out of it, just like you did in a currency exchange. Because I travel a lot internationally. I travel in Mexico and other places, right? So you have to do in a currency exchange, which they make money off that currency exchange, right? It's a huge business, currency exchanges.
Right.
So I'm going to Canada, and I have my digital wallet, right? And then I go right before I go into Canada, I load it with Canadian digital money. And then I go just with it.
So, but if we look again at the fact that Bitcoin's gone up to 4,000 or whatever it is right now, so how does that impact my investment strategy? This thing that you call that I put in my ATM machine, how does the fact that the value keeps going up, how does that impact my buying ability or my or even what I'm thinking about my money in the future?
Well, this is big questions you're asking, because they're profound questions to everybody's lives, and some of those questions are related not just to the technology we're talking about, but what is value to you? Like, owning a house valuable to you? Is having a fancy car or just an economy valuable to you? Is travel very important to you? Is owning jewelry very important to you? Is having very nice clothes very important to you? So you have to be able to ask these questions before you ask about investment. Because when I ask those questions to individual people, have to say, well, if I'm going to be investing, I have to know myself to know what to I need to invest in, right? So if I say this is really valuable to me, like travel was very valuable to me post pandemic, well, I'm going to put away money for a certain way to travel or a way to save money. You know, I was supposed to be in France when this hit. I was supposed to be taking the south of France, and I was taking my wife, and I was going to be working in Paris. That's where I was supposed to be before the pandemic hit, right? So I had to cancel all that, right? I had to take all that down, right? So, you know, and so that's the question you're asking relates to lifestyle more than it does Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin's a philosophy. A digital currency is a government thing that will be created that we have no control over how that's going to be. Like we as individuals
Right.
are going to be living in the same thing that we get. It's just like when they invented credit cards. We act like that, you know, nobody rebelled about credit cards, right? It was like, oh my gosh, I don't want a credit card. Like, oh my gosh. And then nobody rebelled when they said, you can use a credit card and buy things on the internet. What's the internet? And then you could say like that. Everybody loved that too. And then they started making a huge amount of money off of buying things with a credit card on the internet. So it's a progression is what I'm talking about. It's kind of a progression of technology. But the core aspect of that technology, when you talk about that, is that it becomes an individual decision for people because, you know, money versus health, the health of money, our financial health, is a very, very important thing right now. I think that everybody's dealing with, you know, like in this time, and that really is a lot about what do you want to have, and what is really valuable to you, and what are you spending your money on versus what you should be spending your money on. Right. Like, you know, because we get caught into this marketing trap of saying, oh, I need this, but I really don't need that. Instead, I could save $10,000 and not buy that. Right. Or I could save $5,000 and put that in gold coins and not do that. Right. So it really is about controlling your emotions around financing and finances and controlling what you believe and you want to own and have. For example, I'm a creative at core. So I'm making art, but I'm also promoting people that make art. Because I believe at the creative core, you know, I think that they have value. But a lot of people said, yeah, I wouldn't even buy that because I don't buy art. You know, I don't think that has value to me, right? But they might have a value in another way, which might be, you know, related to the clothing brand or car they like or those things. And at the core, as a brand developer, I know at the core of things, they're brand developments, right? There's stories, emotions hooked to stories, and brand developments. Yes. So I have to look at myself, and then I advise people in that way is to say, know yourself to know your money. You know, if you want to know, if you want to really be happy, financially happy, you need to know exactly what you like. And that is really the hard part. The other part is a technical part.
Why do you think that's the hard part? People don't know themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's hard to get outside of the illusion of the marketing trap. It's hard to get out of the illusion of realizing that, you know, you bought these shoes, but, you know, the shoes are a brand. You bought this house and because you bought it because you like the neighborhood. And you bought this car because you really like the brand of the car or the color of the car or the way I drive in the car or you know, I want the BMW because I want the BMW, or I want that because I want that. I want the Tesla because the Tesla's cool, you know, but I also could buy a $20,000 car for new, you know, which is a Hyundai, but that isn't cool. Tesla's like 60 or 80,000. That's cool. Right. So, you know, I could buy the $20,000 car and then take the other 40,000 and put it in investments instead of owning the Tesla. So I guess that, and this is something as profound as you get older. I think as you get older, you start to think about that because when you're younger, you're in the midst of really experience buying. You're really about, you know, like, what can I have to feel experiential? And as you get older, you start to think, what can I have that creates comfort? Like, you know, what creates comfort in my life? And I think the pandemic is really for everybody is that. It's like, how comfortable are they in their own space and their own lives? The second part of what Tammy was saying, which I'm going a little bit, you know, back to that, my biggest concern, and I said it before, it's really the emotional health of people in the pandemic, you know, not the financial health, but I think government has no choice but to step in and help people. And during this pandemic to get to stabilize, because we can't have an unstabilized population and an unstabilized economy at the same time. There's no choice but to have to do that. And in fact, Europe has been doing it the whole time. All 26 countries in Europe There's not one person in Europe's going to lose a house or a car.
Wow.
So it's different for different parts of the countries, but in the UK, for example, they're getting an equivalent of around $4,000 a month.
Wow.
In the UK.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's not popular news here because, you know, they don't want to look
Yeah.
at, I'm a global thinker, right? I'm not like just a regional thinker. I'm a global thinker. And so I'm looking at global trends.
Yes.
And I have business associates that are not just the US based, but they're around the world. So yeah, I mean, you know, I have close ties to Ireland. So I'm saying I'm looking at all my friends in Ireland and saying, you know, what's going on in Ireland and how is things going for the government there as your business, or what is being happening in the Irish government compared to ours. So I'm asking these questions a lot in the international spaces.
So, speaking of the emotional aspect and the mental health aspect, if you are speaking to people in these other countries like Ireland, are they as what's the word I'm saying? I want to say suffering. Are they feeling the emotional upheaval that we are feeling here? Is it the same? Or are they a little more, as you would might even
Less
say,
anxious, perhaps?
less anxious?
They're going through the same emotions that we do. They just don't have the financial concerns around them. Like, I mean, they have families that are passing away. They have grandfathers that are passing away.
Yeah.
They have people that are getting sick. They're doing a lot the tracing. They're also locked in space and locked in environment, so they don't get to enter, you know, especially in some of these very social, like Italy and Ireland. You know, a lot of these countries are, you know, very social country. I mean, they social gather, they social with family.
So do you see the
You know,
small businesses taking that excuse me, just the small businesses, are they getting hit as much as they are here? Because I know probably anybody here that's watching, or I know the host, we can probably name off immediately 5 or 6 friends that we have that have businesses that have gone under, whether they're restaurants or small boutiques or something. Is it the same that you see in other countries as well? Just your personal experience?
You know, remember we had the PPP, the area that took out loans into the SBA. Different countries in Europe had a different form of that. So some of those people were basically floating that ability for periods of time in the pandemic. But when you had especially in the UK right now, you know, I'm not talking about Ireland because it's UK is UK and Scotland, right? So those areas over there, they've had a surge, upsurge, and then another surge come again. So they were already providing those kind of a relief to the small business sector on that, but they were predicting that they wouldn't have the next wave, right? So, and for them to keep that wave going on, they're taking greater debt. So the area is really interesting. We're also taking a lot of debt, and when we come out of this, we're going to be taking on a lot of debt. That also relates to the digital dollar all again. Like, you're asking who has debt, what is debt, and how can debt disappear, right? Like, there was discussions through this whole area about, you know, making student loans disappear. Like, you know, just, okay, you owe money now on student loans, now you don't. No, we're just gonna, you know, Congress makes an agreement. Yeah, we agree. We all vote. Now you don't owe that money anymore. Okay, so you know, a lot of these things that we talk about in debt systems are based on requirement systems, right? So there are requirements set up to pay things back, but it doesn't mean they can't disappear. They could disappear through a legislative act. Literally, they could say, okay, we're going to the digital dollar. I'm just being futuristic, and all the debt we have with China is going to go away tomorrow because China is going to digital dollar too. So I guess that money is not the same. By poof.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
So in the digital dollar, is there just one currency around the world, or do we still have US versus, you know, we don't do exchanges anymore when it's just one digital currency, one worldwide digital currency?
No, they're not going to allow that.
Okay.
Though a lot of people that are heavy into the digital space would love to see that. But no, they're going to have individual, which means they'll have exchanges basically. You know, when you travel, or you'll have a digital exchange going on as well. You know, another area to look at is how Bahamas is rolling it out. I talked about that. Bahamas was rolling out their own digital currency. And the reason I say that is because a lot of those areas are hubs, you know, and those areas are hubs for very high net worth people who put a lot of high wealth money into the islands. And
Right.
so they're like, well, and they cater to those people. Around the world, there are areas like that, like Malta's another area like that, where you can buy citizenship and you can make corporations, and then you put great deals of money in their bank accounts. So they're around the world. You have to. We need to be watching about how that shifting is happening. So the U.S. side, it'll be interesting because the California space, right? I'm really looking at our recovery. I'm looking at certain states. I'm looking at Florida, I'm looking at Texas, and I'm looking at California to see the moves they make. The largest states, right? The largest states. And I'm going to see exactly what their legislation does for the small business sector in the new administration. Because Texas's recovery, California's recovery, and Florida's recovery are necessary for us to have recovery.
So we're actually down to the wire. We've got to wrap up with you, but just for fun, would it be a good investment to go, if we could, and buy an island in the Bahamas? Good, bad?
Why not? Now, that's funny because actually they're doing that in Italy right now. You can buy an island. They were actually doing that in parts of the world. And Italy said, but you had to go buy a house there. You had to remote it, but it was an island where you could buy the island. Yeah, so you can actually buy islands. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I know.
So right. So right. So would you also be buying some type of digital currency at this point?
Well, what I'm looking to do is exactly to see what the rollout will be on the U.S. currency, because when that hits, because I said that before last time. I have $80,000 in the bank account. That'll be part of a digital wallet. So they'll take that money and it'll be a part of a digital. Your money doesn't disappear. It just becomes a different form.
Okay.
That's good to know.
You did say though that, the investment in gold would be something you would consider.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, precious metals in themselves are going to increase in value, just like real estate. So I mean, they're going to increase in value. Yeah, they're not going to go away. Before I would buy diamonds, I would buy gold. So you asked me that, like I would buy gold.
Right.
I have so many questions for you, Shaun. I'm always in awe when you're talking. So I always listen. It's like, anytime you talk, it's like, okay, just let him talk. But we can't wait to have you back on because there's so many questions that we still want to ask you. So, wow, this has been amazing. Amazing.
Yes. And for people that are watching, leave in the comments if you have questions for Shaun, so we know what to bring him back on for. So if there's something that got you intrigued, whether it was the real estate, pattern of where things are going, or if there's something that's a concern to you, put it in the comments or somehow get that to us through coffeewiththequeens.com. And if this was valuable to the folks out there, make sure that you always share as well. Subscribe to the channel. So we're about to wrap up actually, but we have a quote somewhere, don't we, y'all? We always have a quote. So Shaun, stay with us for this quote. If Sandy can find it. Because it was a really, really good one. I know that. And you know what? I can't. So we're just going to have to put that quote on. Oh, here we go. Yes, I do. I found it. It's in tiny, tiny, tiny print on my paper. This is from John Maxwell. If you are proactive, you focus on preparing. If you're reactive, you end up focusing on repairing. That's such a good one. Kind of like where we were this whole show. Right. So I want to thank you, Shaun, again for being here. It's been fantastic. We'll make sure that we put a link to connect with you on our resource page at coffeewiththequeens.com. And for everybody else, please like, subscribe. It's been awesome to have you here commenting with us. Do we have anything we're going to give away before we wrap up?
We have our empowering ebook. Let's see who's out there.
We do. And I think
we were speaking out to Shaun earlier, Mads.
Well, I think we have, let's try to pick a new winner.
Okay.
Let's see. Mads, she's one of our loyal guests, followers. Here we have Louisa, and we have Angel's been quite active. Has Angel won yet?
I don't think so.
He's another one of our awesome guests.
Let's do it.
So, there we go. He said he
Maybe you
wants
want
free
free
coaching
coaching
from
from
Shaun.
Shaun. We'll leave that to you two to figure out. Okay? A lot of us want free coaching from Shaun. Well, in the meantime, make sure that you guys are ready to join us next week, because if we have perhaps piqued your curiosity about whether or not you should buy property or a home right now, maybe you should readjust that mortgage. We're going to be talking all about that, and you'll find a way that you can actually have a peace of mind. That is going to be next week. So make sure that you tune in with us. And as of right now, you guys, it has been awesome to be here with you all, and we are wrapping up. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Guys.